Government's response to the call for total ban and state of emergency to be declared against Galamsey does sit well with the Labour Front as they call for the head does not sit well with the Labour Front as they call for the head of the Lands Minister. We will engage the members of the coalition. Still to come in the bulletin, on the campaign trail, flag bearer of the NPP, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has made a stop at Ladade Kototbong and Lejukuku constituencies. We will go there shortly. In business, the Association of Ghana Industries has called on the government to strengthen the country's buffer stock. On the international front, flights have been grounded at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Thank you for staying with us. We are live on YouTube at ABC News GH. Let's get into the stories. The flagship free senior high school policy was commissioned exactly 7 years ago today, September 12, 2017, by the President Nana Akufo-Addo to provide free senior higher education for all government high schools across the country. The policy, which was part of the then opposition NPP campaign promise since 2008, commenced barely 8 months into the first term of the Nana Addo Bawumia government. The implementation of the policy saw divided critique from the public and education watchers, with some questioning the timelines of implementation of the policy. Since the implementation of the policy, more than 1 million pupils have been able to access secondary education amidst calls for a holistic review of the policy. However, the government has maintained that it will not review the current state of the policy, but will only improve it to provide more access to education for Ghanaian students. The President, at the inaugural speech on the commissioning of the policy, said that the free SHS was going to be a game changer for the educational system, chiding critics who believe that the policy was not possible.
I'm here this morning to perform a very pleasant task, to launch the commencement of the free senior high school policy. When I proposed this policy in 2008, many were those who said free SHS could not be done. The idea was ridiculed and was described by propagandists as a vote-buying gimmick, even though, ironically, it did not win me that election. I was labeled a liar by my opponents, who went on to state that free SHS could only be possible in 20 years' time. I'm here this morning to perform a very pleasant task, to launch the commencement of the free senior high school policy. When I proposed this policy in 2008, many were those.
We apologize for the wrong insert. Meanwhile, Vice President and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, says that the bold implementation of the free SHS policy shows the government's level of commitment and possibility mindset. As addressing constituents in the Lodjokuku constituency during his campaign tour on September 12, 2024, exactly 7 years since the policy was launched, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia says, despite the doubts about the policy, the government took a bold step to implement the policy to increase access to education.
And we came into office, and with that mindset of possibilities, we introduced free senior high school education in our very first budget in 2017. And so we have seen, because of free SHS, a major increase in enrollment. At the time we came into office, total enrollment in senior high school was 800,000 students. And today, as of 2023, we have increased the enrollment to 1.4 million students. Just think about it. For 60 years after independence, 60 years, we had 800,000 enrollment at the end of 2016. But after 7 years of free SHS, we've added 600,000 to that 800,000. That tells you that there were so many students and children at home who could not go to senior high school because they could not afford. And that is why we have seen a major jump. And what is very, very enlightening about this development is that more girls than boys are now in senior high school. In 2016, and we came into office, and with that mindset of possibilities, we introduced free senior high school education in our very first budget in 2017. And so we have seen, because of free SHS, a major increase in enrollment. At the time we came into office, total enrollment in senior high school was 800,000 students. And today, as of 2023, we have increased the enrollment to 1.4 million students. Just think about it. For 60 years after independence, 60 years, we had 800,000 enrollment at the end of 2016. But after 7 years of free SHS, we've added 600,000 to that 800,000. That tells you that there were so many students and children at home who could not go to senior high school because they could not afford. And that is why we have seen a major jump. And what is very, very enlightening about this development is that more girls than boys are now in senior high school.
Former Deputy Education Minister, Honorable Gifty Chumampofo, joins us on the line. Good afternoon, ma'am. Hello, good afternoon, Honorable. Well, whilst we wait to establish contact with Honorable Gifty Chumampofo, it's been 7 years since the launch or the implementation of the free SHS policy in Ghana. We see that under SDG Goal 4, by 2030, we should ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education, leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. This has been the goal on which the free SHS policy was built on, to make sure that by 2030 we have girls and boys in school who not only have gone to school but have completed their education. Honorable Gifty Chumampofo, good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am. Also, the free SHS policy, following the implementation of the Kufuor F-Cube, free compulsory universal basic education, free SHS complements this so much so well that you just don't get a universal education just at the basic level, but at SHS you get to also go to school and not be hampered by any challenges. Honorable Gifty Chumampofo joins us. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, dear.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon on ABC News GH.
It's a pleasure.
As a former Deputy Education Minister, 7 years on after the policy was launched, would you say that the policy has achieved the goals that it sought out to achieve?
Thank you very much. I say good afternoon to your listeners. And I say equal to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Alhaj Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and the then Education Minister, who happens to be the running mate for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh. Free SHS is 7 years today. We give all the glory to the Lord Most High for the great things He has done. Why the free SHS policy and what have we achieved so far? The free SHS policy was introduced to ensure that we provide quality education without financial constraints, to ensure equity and excellence in education. Have you been able to do that? I will say yes. Yes and yes. In 2016, just before we introduced the free SHS, students, the number of SHS that we had in the country were a little above 600. That is second cycle institutions that we enrolled on the free SHS were a little above 600 schools, with the annual enrollment of 800. But as of now, the number of institutions that are second cycle benefiting from the free SHS are a little above 900 schools. So from 600 to 900 plus. I would say that we have done very well. Again, students that were being enrolled annually were 800. But as of now, we are about 1.4 students that are enrolled annually. For the 7 years, we've been able to churn out students almost 5 million. To ensure, and these individuals are really ensuring that there is equity. The poor and the rich are all benefiting from the same facilities. No discrimination, no one is being looked down upon. In areas of uniforms, we've been providing them. In areas of teaching and learning, we have done extremely well. Because during the first year and the second year where we introduced the double track, we employ a lot of graduate teachers to ensure that teachers will always be available. And I mean quality teachers were always available in the schools. Again, the policy provided the students with core textbooks. That is core mathematics, integrated science, social studies, and English language and mathematics. And these core textbooks have been provided all these years.
Right. Ma'am, but the policy documents, okay, there have been some challenges that have been identified with the free SH policy. What would you say about it, and how can we address these challenges moving on?
Yes, there are few challenges because it is an ongoing policy or process, and it's made up of human institutions. The challenges that we've been having include some delays in food supplies, which in going forward, we're planning to streamline procurement processes to improve the management of the perishable goods and all others, and also to leverage on bulk procurement and optimize distribution. This will ensure that the cost of food will also be reduced and the quality will be improved. Apart from this, the feeding issues, there were also few challenges so far as space at the boarding schools and space of classrooms are concerned. I'm glad to say that with this free SHS, we've embarked on a number of projects, as many as 3,600 projects, including classrooms, dormitories, dining halls, administration blocks. And out of these, we have 550 dormitories, 467 classrooms around that. And many of those projects have been completed and few are ongoing. So when all these projects are completed, there will be no more double track. And if you love with me alone, the double track is also not a bad policy at all, but you promise Ghanaians that about the 7th year, you try to take off the double track. So when we're able to address these space and we're able to address or streamline the procurement process, then the last thing we're talking about will be some textbooks that we're having some challenges in distributing them. But in this era of digitalization, we have procured huge numbers of tablets for these students. And as of now, about 2 million of the tablets already have the textbooks being loaded on them. Sorry, 200,000 textbooks, the content of textbooks being loaded on these tablets, and the distribution is ongoing. So with this, the free SHS going into the 8th year, inshallah, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will be the president. Few of these things I've mentioned, we're going to improve upon them. As I said, we're going to take advantage of digitalization, get the content of their syllabi on the tablet that we're distributing to students, and also streamlining the procurement processes.
For joining us this afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm also very, very grateful for the opportunity.
Honorable Gifty Chuman-Poffo is a former minister, a former deputy minister of education, and she's given us her thoughts and insights on the free SHS policy 7 years after its inception, 7 years after the policy kicked off. Like I was saying earlier, free SHS came to address the issue of students dropping out of school after their junior high school. So this policy has come as a stopgap measure, as a measure to allow students to also gain some second cycle education. Like I said again, on the SDG Goal 4, quality education is one of the things that they look at, and that by 2030, girls and boys should have been able to complete second cycle education, and this is one of the things that the free SHS was looking at. We have a ranking member on education, an MP for Akachi North, Peter Nochukote, joining us. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. I hope you're also doing well.
Very well.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you too.
So today marks 7 years since free SHS started. As a ranking member on education, would you say that free SHS has been fruitful?
Yeah, thank you very much. If I can take your viewers and listeners back a little, in 2015, September, President Mahama launched the free senior high school on the progressively free approach system as enshrined in the Constitution. then came in 2017, I'm sure. Yeah, President Akufo-Addo launched the MPP version of the free SHS. Yes, we can say that the free SHS has achieved a number of successes, and one of them is the increasing numbers that we have witnessed over the years. So, if you ask me what my impression about the free SHS is, the first one I'll talk about is the increasing number. It was aimed at making sure that children who otherwise would have been able to gain admission under the traditional system have been able to do so. The number could have been higher than what we have now if the measures that President Mahama had started putting in place, like the E-block and then the expansion of facilities at the various senior high schools, had been continued. I am sure if anybody will be left behind at all, it will be less than even 5% of the number that completed basic education over the years. So for me, yes, we have achieved success in the numbers. Whether it has been the quality education at the secondary school level that we expected, looking at the numerous challenges that have been there, I think we could have achieved more than we have done now.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you too.
Honorable Peter Nochu-Kotoi is a ranking member on education in Parliament, and he also has thrown light on the free SHS. He believes that former President John Mahama started it progressively in 2015 by building the e-blocks, and President Nana Akufo-Addo came to add up by his free SHS in 2017, and believes that some of the challenges the free SHS has faced wouldn't have been as monumentous by his assertion if they had followed their Mahama way by building more e-blocks. Maybe the number of students at home would have reduced more than they are now. We have joining us Irene Sam, the Deputy PRO of the National Council of Parent-Teacher Association. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, dear.
Thank you for joining us on ABC News GH.
My pleasure.
As a council, as a deputy PRO, 7 years on after free SHS was launched by the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, would you say that it has done what it sought out to do?
Well, thank you very much for this privilege, and a grateful afternoon to your cherished listeners and viewers as well. Let me say that unto the Lord, He has done great things for us, and we want to congratulate the MPP government under the leadership of Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia for enrolling the free senior high school policy. 7 years down the lane, it has been successful, although there are few challenges that we have looked at or which we have envisaged that we see it happening. But on the whole, it's a very good policy. We have gained the access, although, but we are looking at the various challenges that has accompanied the policy. So we are looking forward that as the years go by, we can sit down and look at the area that need to be amended, area that need to be reviewed, so that it can really improve upon the access. And then we are also concerned about the quality of education, not only the access that it's providing, but the quality as well. So ways and means that we can improve upon the quality, that's where we stand. But on the whole, it's a good policy that has been rolled out, and 7 years, we are grateful, and then we hope that things can be amended, things can be improved, so that we can have a successful free senior high school policy.
As a PTA, when you say things can be amended, things can be improved, what are some specifics? If you were to mention 3 specifics that need to be amended and improved, what are those that you would mention?
Yes, one is infrastructure. We see overcrowding. The dining halls are overcrowded, dormitories are overcrowded, but our students they have to even sleep on the floors. Some are without, accommodation. So we are looking at infrastructural deficits. Number 2, feeding deficits. we have seen that most of the schools don't have the requisites or the needed materials or food item that they need to be supplied. So we see that our children will be in the school although, but they don't have even quality food to eat. Even though we know that schools level, you can't have it all the best, but at least whatever that they need to be supplied, for whatever that they need to get to feed our walls, that one too has not been there. So over the years, we were having some hiccups here and there, shortage of food in various schools, and then we have to come in and help in that regard. So that's another aspect of it. And then the other aspect is about teacher development. We are looking at how children are overcrowded in the classrooms, and then teachers are teaching them. How is the delivery like? Are they meeting them according to their needs? So all these are what we are looking at. And then let me add one too. In terms of uniform, it's part of the free senior high school policy. A whole year will come, they will not have the prescribed uniform. They have to wear whatever we parents have provided for them that they have sent to the schools. So all these are challenges that we have looked at or we have identified with the policy. And we are seeing that if we can revisit it and see where we can put things in order, I think it can really help to improve upon the quality that we are all looking for.
Okay. The president in his recent public engagement has said that parents who can afford private schools should take their awards there by paying their fees but his government is not going to relent on making free SHS free. So what do you think about this? And do you think that the president's comments will also help in ensuring that more children or more students will benefit from the free SHS?
Well, that is his assertion, actually. That's his assertion. That is what he thinks is it. But we looking at the issues on the ground, we are saying that if you are roll out a policy for all, and all are to benefit, okay, by all means, it's a human policy. So it's bound to encounter challenges. So when we envisage those challenges, this is where we have to come down and then help solve it. And the PTAs are there to help. Our basic mandate has always been to complement government efforts over the years. And we have collaborated well in this regard in terms of education. So having this policy rolled out, there is nothing wrong if they can always leverage, as they have always been doing, leverage the PTAs to help them in this regard. So that can be his assertion though, but we as a council, we are not looking at it like that.
Okay. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Irene Sam is the Deputy PRO of the PTA, the Council of PTA in Ghana. So this has been the conversation on free SHS, 7 years on. How has the free SHS impacted you? We are live on social media, so you want to drop a tweet on X, especially to tell us how much free SHS has benefited or not benefited you as a person. Away from free SHS, the Apostolic Fathers of Ghana, representing a coalition of some 19 prominent leaders from the charismatic movement, have called for an immediate and temporary ban on all forms of small-scale gold mining, commonly known as galamsey. In a passionate and urgent plea, the clergy stressed that galamsey activities are wreaking havoc on the environment, the livelihoods of Ghanaians, and the future of the country. In a press release signed by the founder and presiding bishop of Action Chapel International, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, and other prominent clerics, the Apostolic Fathers expressed deep concern over the escalating destruction caused by illegal mining. The group highlighted that the effects of galamsey have far-reaching consequences, including the pollution of rivers and water bodies, deforestation, and the destruction of farmlands. The Apostolic Fathers emphasized that if galamsey is left unchecked, it will lead to an environmental catastrophe affecting both parents and future generations. They noted that the current crisis is not only environmental degradation, but also about the livelihoods of thousands of Ghanaians, particularly those in rural areas who depend on the land and water for sustenance. Still on Galamsey, Labour expert Yadom Ponsa is advocating for the upgrade of small-scale mining to medium-scale mining. He argues that small-scale mining has become too accessible, allowing anyone to acquire an excavator and start mining, leading to environmental degradation. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Yadom suggests that small-scale miners should collaborate to transition to medium-scale mining, which will not only help preserve the environment, but also promote more sustainable mining practices. He has also thrown his weight behind the labor union and other civil society's ultimatum to the government over the Galamsey menace.
We need to upscale small-scale mining into a medium-scale mining, okay? Because small-scale has now become, anybody at all can pick up an excavator and he's a miner. If you upscale it to small-scale, medium-scale, it will be subjected to some stringent regulations. People will not go and mine without having a properly designed tailings dams. People will not mine in waters. Then we can make a headway. What it means, therefore, is that about 4 or 5 small-scale mining companies can come together, upscale their business, and then save the environment in which we live. But as it is, the unions can do nothing but to just give government an ultimatum, because their members are dying, their communities are dying, and they cannot look on unconcerned. I support them.
Still on Galamsey, Communications Director of the Ghana Association of Small-Scale Mining, Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, emphasized in an interview with ABC News Ghana that a ban on small-scale mining is not the solution to address illegal activities in the sector. He argues that small-scale mining is a legitimate and recognized category of mining, and instead of banning it entirely, efforts should focus on tackling the specific illegalities and addressing the root causes of the problem. Al-Hassan stresses that there are only 2 recognized categories of mining, small scale and large scale, and that a total ban on small scale mining is not a viable solution. His comments follow calls from several labor unions that small scale mining should be banned to protect the environment.
Or we should know the difference between illegal activities and then something which is legal. So people calling for a ban on small-scale mining, illegal mining, some of us don't get it, because something which is illegal, why banning it again? It is something which is unlawful. So we should find a way and deal with the issue. But when we bring small-scale mining in there, so it means that we are moving away from the reality, and then we are dealing with a different thing altogether. For example, we have only 2 sections in mining. We have the large scale and we have the small scale. And then this small scale mining is just by size, and then the large scale is the same thing by size. So if something illegal is happening, let's look at the illegalities of it and deal with it. So people calling for the total ban on small scale, some of us cannot understand and cannot comprehend it, because we were in this country when the same government put a total ban, which is blanket ban on small-scale mining.
Meanwhile, the Communications Director of the Ghana Association of Small-Scale Mining, Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, has clarified that small-scale miners are not permitted by law to mine in river bodies and forest reserves. He emphasizes that individuals or companies engaging in mining activities in these prohibited areas are not legitimate small-scale miners, but rather illegal operators who may be from any scale of mining, including large-scale companies. Al-Hassan advocates for a collective effort to address illegal mining activities as a whole, rather than unfairly targeting small-scale miners.
We need to clarify the issue. The issues are 2. We have those who are doing these illegalities with water bodies, and we have those who are also penetrating this thing or doing this job on forest reserves. All of us have agreed as a nation that forest reserve is no-go area for mining activities. Now, per the law and the regulations that are governing us, no law in this country is permitting us as small-scale miners to mine on river bodies. So anybody who is on that on river bodies is not a small-scale miner. Anybody, no law is giving us the chance to work in forest reserves. So all the prospecting, all the recognizance, all the what and what that they are doing in forest reserves, those permits were not given to small-scale miners. So we need to understand these dynamics and then look at the solution on how to fight these illegalities. You can be large-scale or you can be large company. When you are perpetrating illegality, it's illegality. So all the people in the forest, none of them, if you want, you can check through the archives or the different of Minerals Commission, none of them is a small-scale mine. We need to clarify the issue. The issues are two. We have those who are doing these illegalities with water bodies, and we have those who are also penetrating this thing or doing this job on forest reserves. All of us have agreed as a nation that forest reserve is no-go area for mining activities. Now, per the law and the regulations that are governing us, no law in this country is permitting us as small-scale miners to mine on river bodies. So anybody who is on that on river bodies is not a small-scale miner. Anybody, no law is giving us the chance to work in forest reserves. So all the prospecting, all the recognizance, all the what and what that they are doing in forest reserves, those permits were not given to small-scale miners. So we need to understand these dynamics and then look at the solution on how to fight these illegalities. You can be large-scale or you can be large company. When you are perpetrating illegality, it's illegality. So all the people in the forest, none of them, if you want, you can check through the archives or the different of Minerals Commission, none of them is a small-scale mine. We need to clarify.
Joining us on phone is Daryl Bosu of Arocha, Ghana, a member of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining, for a conversation. Good afternoon, Daryl.
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
It was a pleasure. Thank you also for having me.
Daryl, please, we can hardly hear you, so kindly speak up for our viewers.
Hello, I'm practically shouting. Is it okay?
It is fine now.
Okay.
Okay. So some of your members seem not to be happy with the response from the Lands Minister concerning Galamsey, and that your call is draconian. Should the government place a ban on Galamsey and declare a total state of emergency? What is Arocha Ghana saying?
Yes, I think we have had cause to listen to the Minister for Lands and the statement that he has made. I don't see and we don't agree that the call we are making is draconian. The fact that we are calling for a state of emergency doesn't mean that we are calling for a state of emergency across the country. The law allows that a state of emergency can be called for parts of the country as it so deserves. So we don't really see what the minister means by the call is draconian. This is not the first time an emergency crisis like this has compelled us to even put in place or call for or declare a state of emergency. Ghana will be the first. Several other countries around the world, Peru, others in South Africa, others in Brazil, and even sometimes I would say China, have had to impose a state of emergency because of illegalities and pollution from mining activities. So I think is the minister just telling us that they don't want to act as demanded, and they are more concerned about the consequences of the state of emergency on the illegal operations of people who could probably be beneficiaries of they could be benefiting from. So I believe that is the minister not taking his time to appreciate the crisis we find ourselves and acting accordingly. So it's unfortunate that without even giving it very critical thought, he should say this, because as far as I'm concerned, we are not asking for too much. There are certain areas in this country where Galamsey is getting out of hand. People's livelihoods are at stake, and health is also at stake, and so there is the need for us to act decisively. And the point at which we are going, if we don't do that, I'm very certain that very soon we are going to have a state of emergency because of the health crisis that is going to be occasioned by the risks of heavy metal contamination being experienced across the country.
Daryl, have you sought audience with the minister?
Have we sought audience? The same way the minister has not sought audience with us. We have put out our statement. We've been engaging him for several occasions, and we expect that he also engages. So I think we both have an obligation to engage. We have been doing this not today, not yet, and we've been doing it for a long time. So I think we all have an obligation. He needs to engage and know exactly what we're also demanding. He's heard us. He decided to put his statements also on air. So I think there's a fair chance for all of us to engage effectively.
Daryl, some have called for the head of the minister. They say that the minister must go because he hasn't handled the situation of Galamsey properly. Do you agree with them?
I think we have said on kind of occasions that this is definitely a good call, because as far as we are concerned, all he has done with the Galamsey menace is to do PR, not really commit to it. I mean, he indicated somewhere in 2021, if I'm not mistaken with the dates, that our forest reserves and rivers are no-go areas. We didn't see him commit to it. The same minister went on international platforms and committed to securing our forest reserve. He joined international partnerships to protect our forest reserve, but he sat down and watched whilst new airlines, Airline 2462 was passed to open up our critical and protected forest reserves for mining. So I think as far as he's concerned, if it comes to talk, he's good with it, but we want somebody who delivers on results. And he has not shown that he has that capacity to do that. So we certainly agree that he must resign to show that, and the government must take that action to show that they are really committed to dealing with this matter.
Okay. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Daryl. Daryl Bosu is from Arocha, Ghana, and he joined us to have this conversation about the minister's statement on Galamsey. Away from these local stories, let's take some business stories. The Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Brian Echampo, has announced a 129.36 increase in the producer price of cocoa for the 2024-2025 cocoa season, effective Wednesday, September 11, 2024. The price has risen from 20,928 Ghana cedis per ton at the opening of the 2023-2024 season to 48,000 Ghana cedis per ton, or from 1,308 Ghana cedis per 64 kilogram bag to 3,000 Ghana cedis per 64 kilogram bag. The Producer Price Review Committee on Cocoa agreed on Tuesday on the producer price of cocoa and the other rates and fees for the 2024-2025 crop season. According to the Minister of Food and Agriculture, Brian Echampo, the government has put in place adequate measures to help farmers increase production using modern farming practices. He added that the targets would have been above the projection if the West African region had not experienced bad weather conditions. Still on cocoa pricing, Council Chairman of Cocoa Abrabopa Association, Ismaila Pomasi, has bemoaned the upward adjustments in cocoa prices at the farm gate by the Producer Price Review Committee, PPRC, as lower than the international market price. Speaking on Business Fix in the morning, Mr. Pomasi said that the price, as stated at 3,000 Ghana cedis, is lower than the international prices. He said that buying a bag of 64 kilogram of cocoa at 3,000 is disappointing. He said that based on international pricing, a bag of cocoa should be bought at the farm gate for at least 4,200 Ghana cedis.
We had a new price, and I think for the first time we had a new price from PPRC, which has not been the case for all these years. Though the PPRC, they will make recommendation to Cocoa Board and government for the price to be announced, but it has always been the mandate of Cocoa Board to announce the price. Yeah, the price is 3,000 effective, like you said, from yesterday. For me, I think that the price is very disappointing. I mean, this is not what we expected. When you look at the current international market price, currently today as we speak, the price is around $9,500 per ton. And then when you look at the exchange rate, when you even take the interbank exchange rate projected by Bank of Ghana, even yesterday it was around $50. So when you look at it and then you do the permutations, and over the years, we are told that when we are determining the farm gate price, we give 70% of the FOB price to cocoa farmers. So when you break it down and then you look at the amount that is announced yesterday, I would say it's very disappointing. Ghana, over the years, has been doing the futures. So when you even trace back to last year, September, just after the price,
Ismaila Promasi has called the manner of announcing the new cocoa pricing by the Producer Price Review Committee as disrespectful. He said on Business Fix that contrary to assurances by the CEO of Cocoa Board to farmers in Kumasi that the president was going to be the one to announce the price adjustment due to the colossal nature of the amount, it wasn't to be. Instead, the announcement by PPRC took them by surprise. He said that it has never been the case that the PPRC announced cocoa price adjustments.
A firm assurance that the price that will be announced yesterday was so colossal that the president himself wanted to do this announcement. Now he came, he is in the country, and the only thing we hear yesterday was an announcement from PPRC, which I said initially has never been the case. And then later the Agri Minister came to confirm it. So on what basis did they even delay if they gave the flimsy excuse that Mr. President wanted to announce the price himself, and then it ended up, being in the hands of the Agri Minister? Why? And when you look at even the statement, you are making your reference point to September 2023 price that was announced. Meanwhile, we increased the price in April. So in any case, just base your argument on even April, and then let us know, like you said, 45%. But in the statement the minister gave, they are saying they've increased the price to 129%, which is not the case. So you don't need to, give us this information when you know you increase the price in April, right? So when you look at even the whole announcement architecture for this year, you realize that there is no respect for farmers in coming out with this price, right? So I don't think Cocoa Board is being fair to Ghanaian cocoa farmers. Yeah. At least if you are giving the price, let us even know the basis with which you are actually giving this price. They didn't even give us any explanation. The only thing they said is that this year the producer a ton of a cocoa is at 4,800, which translates into 3,000 Ghana cedis per bag. And then even the amount is too flat. You give 3,000, at least add something on top of it, so that would even take care of, the carriage cost and other things. But 3,000 is too flat. Just give us the basis. How much did you receive from the international market price? And how much are you giving to the farmer? What percentage of the FOB price? Your mandate is to sell the cocoa on our behalf. We produce the cocoa. So you have to at least be transparent. Let us know how much you receive and how much you are giving to the farmers. All this information is not available to us. So on what basis should we even conclude that you've done so?
That's all for business news. Let's go back to some local stories. Richard Kumado, the Executive Director of the Independent Election Security and Compliance Watchers, has indicated gaps in the implementation of the Emil Short Commission report. The Commission's comprehensive report identified causes of violence such as political intolerance and weak institutions, and proposed reforms including legal changes, improved security and civic education. Speaking on ABC in the morning, Richard Kumado says the Electoral Commission has not gone into the community to create more polling stations, and also repositions the previous ones along with integrating new technologies and improving training for security personnel to better protect democratic processes.
Electoral Commission has gone into the communities to create new police stations or voting centers. They have also gone into the communities to reposition the previous ones, which means that where people voted 20 years ago or in the year 2020, their names are not likely to be there. Coupled with the fact that the voter exhibition exercise, a lot of people did not go to check their name. Even when you use the *711 *51 hash, it gives you police stations that when you get there, some people complain they can't find their name. Now, if the Electoral Commission, as part of education, will not message people because you have sold all your telecoms, so you do not have free code, but they can buy bulk messages and text people to tell them their bio and where exactly they are voting. Once it comes from the Electoral Commission as authority conducting election, it is more credible and people are going to be safe from that. So that is what the issue is.
Election security expert Richard Kumador has issued a strong warning to Ghana's Electoral Commission, urging them to prioritize transparency and adhere to best practices in the upcoming 2024 general elections. Speaking with ABC in the morning, Richard Kumador, an independent specialist in election security and compliance, highlighted the critical need for accuracy and consistency to avoid electoral instability. He stated that lapses in the electoral processes have historically contributed to unrest and military coup in West Africa, underscoring the importance of the EC adopting global standards to mitigate security risks and maintain stability in Ghana.
The reason why voter displacement is going to happen is this. Electoral Commission has gone into the communities to create new police stations or voting centers. They have also gone into the communities to reposition the previous ones, which means that where people voted 20 years ago or in the year 2020, their names are not likely to be there. Coupled with the fact that the voter exhibition exercise, a lot of people did not go to check their name. Even when you use the *711 *51 hash, it gives you police stations that when you get there.
Away from the local stories, let's take some sports stories. The Ministry of Youth and Sports has instructed the Ghana Football Association to seek approval from CAF for the Accra and University of Ghana Sports Stadiums to host the Black Stars' next home match in the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. CAF recently banned the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, which hosted Ghana's last game against Angola, citing an unsuitable playing field. This decision leaves Ghana with limited options, potentially forcing them to host their next game against Sudan in October in neighboring countries like Togo, Nigeria, or Ivory Coast. However, the Sports Ministry recommends the Accra Sports Stadium and the University of Ghana Stadium, stating that most issues have been resolved. The GFA has been instructed to contact CAF for inspection and possible approval. A statement from the ministry read, "The minister has instructed the GFA to immediately request CAF to inspect the Accra Sports Stadium and the University of Ghana Stadium for approval as Category 3 match venues." Meanwhile, the ministry has directed the National Sports Authority to address the issues with the Baba Yara Sports Stadium's pitch, which deteriorated following a church event in July. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, has appointed a quartet of Ghanaian referees each for the CAF Champions League and CAF Confederation Cup. The quartet for the CAF Champions League includes Daniel Ni Ayilaye as referee for the match between APRFC Rwanda versus Pyramids FC Egypt, Kwesi Champon Brobe and Seth Abletor as assistants, with Charles Benle Bulu as the fourth official. Mike Letty from Uganda is the commissioner for the match, with Ali Mohammed Ahmed of Somalia as the referee assessor. The game will be played on Saturday, September 14, 2024 at the Amahoro Stadium in Kigali. Ghana's Julian Ni Akwanunu will officiate this weekend's CAF Confederation Cup match between Rukinzo FC of Burundi and CS Faxien of Tunisia. Rolani Dodu Adi and Theophilus Aberanga Kugri are his assistants for the game, with Reginald Collins Amoa as the fourth official. The match commissioner for the game is Mbaruk Suleiman Othman from Zanzibar, with Jean-Claude Labrousse from the Seychelles as referee assessor. The match will be played on Sunday, September 15, 2024 at the Stade Taib Maurice Fax in Tunisia. This is the first time Ghana has had 8 referees for a weekend of continental duties. That's all for sports. Let's take some international news. A U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard has resulted in Harvard University a decline in black students admitted to its freshman class, the first to enroll after the end of affirmative action in higher education. In response to the decline in diversity, some have called the concrete changes to Harvard's admission policies. Harvard University released its first post-ruling admissions data. Despite the challenges, Harvard remains committed to creating an inclusive community. The university's Office for Equity, Diversion, Inclusion, and Belonging continues to work towards inclusive excellence, and Harvard president has reaffirmed the importance of diversity and inclusion. Harvard University's predictions about a decline in diversity in its undergraduate classes were met with concern 6 years ago during a bitter trial. Fast forward to today, data for the first freshman class admitted after the Supreme Court struck down race-based admissions. Let's take a look at some graphics on this. Well, so this is the Harvard post-affirmative action admissions data. There was a decline in black first-year students enrollment at Harvard. The black students stood at 14% in 2024, and this is down from some 18% in 2023. When you look at the steady representation of Asian American students were 37% in 2023 and 2024, which is more than half higher than black students. There's an increase in Hispanic enrollment. Hispanic students stand at 16% in 2024, and it comes up from 14% in 2023. There's an unknown impact on white students. The percentage of students not disclosing their race are 8% in 2024, up from 4% in 2023. Let's look at the post-ruling trends in elite schools. These are the data points there. In Yale, black students stand at a steady at 14%. In Princeton, black students stand at 9%. In Duke, there's a slight increase in black student enrollment. And in Brown, black students dropped from 15% to 9%. And finally, Harvard's recruitment effort. These are their efforts. Specifically, they advocate for ending legacy admissions, which disproportionately benefit wealthy white students, and they are looking at seriously considering applicants' socioeconomic status in admission. So this is what we have on the Harvard post-affirmative action admissions data. This comes on the back of the ruling that was done. Now let's move to entertainment news. At 88 years old, Ghanaian highlife legend Ebo Taylor is proving that age is just a number. He has announced the release of his new album, JID 022, set to drop on October 25, 2024. The album promises a signature blend of traditional highlife rhythms and Afrobeat influences that have earned Taylor international acclaim. The first single, Obra Achedze, meaning gift of life, has already given listeners a soulful taste of what's to come. In addition to the album, Taylor will embark on a 2024 tour, sharing the stage with fellow highlife legend Pat Thomas. This tour promises to be a monumental celebration of the genre, bringing together two of Ghana's most respected musical figures for an unforgettable experience. Ebo Taylor's commitment to keeping the spirits of high life alive remains strong, and with JID 022 and his upcoming tour, he is once again set to captivate audiences worldwide. That is all for our news this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. But before we go, a recap of our headlines. Today, September 12, 2024, marks exactly 7 years since the NPP government's flagship program, Free SHS Policy, was introduced. Government response to the call for total ban and state of emergency to be declared against Galamsey does not sit well with the Labour front as they call for the head of the Lands Minister. Flag bearer for the NPP, Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, has made a stop at Ladade Kotopon and Lejokuku constituency as part of his campaign tour. Co-farmer groups unhappy with latest cocoa pricing. And finally, a U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard has resulted in Harvard University a decline in black students admitted. Thank you for staying with us for the bulletin. For more news, visit us on www.abcnewsgh.com. Interact with us on social media at abcnewsgh_. I am Abena Mati. Do have a good afternoon.